Hi guys, my name is Tom and I'm the Tech Chap, and this is my full review of this ridiculously good value new Amazon Fire tablet. This is £50, or if you're in the States, $50. Obviously we're getting a bit of a rubbish deal here in the UK. Given the fact that it is just £50, I think this is going to be a great tablet for kids, or for perhaps your elderly parents or elderly people, because it doesn't really matter if they lose it, they break it, they smash it, because it is so cheap. And at the same time, although you could argue it's not the nicest, the best, the prettiest tablet, it's pretty durable, it's pretty chunky, and has quite thick bezels. On the one hand you think, oh, that doesn't look very nice, but on the other, it's pretty durable. You can get a good firm grip on it, you can chuck it about, have it sort of thrown down the back of the sofa by your kids or whatever, and you're not going to worry about it. So how's it look and feel? Well, obviously this isn't going to win any style awards. Pretty thick bezels, pretty chunky. It's not going to go against the iPad mini or anything like that. Next to the iPad or the Nexus 7 2013, it doesn't look quite as nice. It is obviously a bit chunkier, bezels are a bit thicker, it's a bit heavier, so it's not going to win any design awards for that, but it does look quite nice. I still think it's sort of a simple, understated, utilitarian look. It's comfortable in the hand thanks for the rounded corners. Now interestingly, Amazon have decided to put the power and the volume buttons on the top of the device, so when you're holding it in landscape mode, perhaps watching a video, watching a movie, using it as a media playing device, then you have quick access to the volume buttons. So definitely designed to be held in landscape mode over portrait. I say that because of the location of these volume buttons. Now the display is a little bit hit and miss. On the one hand, it's a nice IPS display, which means you get solid viewing angles, the colors are quite nice, but at the same time it is a 1024 by 600 resolution. What that means is it's not even basic HD. For the 7-inch display, it does look a bit pixelated. It's not by any stretch of the imagination sharp or crisp, but it's not really the end of the world, and I think most people who are looking for a budget or value tablet aren't really that fussed about resolutions and pixel per inch densities. It looks nice, the colors are nice, as I say, thanks to the IPS display. Brightness could be better. It is fairly dim even at maximum brightness. It's a bit of a shame you won't be using this in bright sunlight. So what's it like to use? Well, I'll be completely honest, this is actually a lot nicer than I thought it would be. It's got a 1.3 GHz quad-core processor alongside 1 GB of RAM inside, so pretty basic specs, but surprisingly it runs really, really well. That's largely thanks to the latest OS 5 Bellini software, which Amazon uses to power these. It's very similar to Android. It's sort of built on the core technology of Android, but Amazon has sort of put their own little tweaks to it and made it their own. In some good ways. For example, I really like how they present all the content to you on the home screens on Android tablets or Apple iPads. You just have a list and lists of apps. Here you do have your lists of apps, but you also get sort of added widgets that show you your videos, your Amazon Prime, your Kindle books, and as you swipe through it just sort of it reminds you of what you have access to, and just as you swipe through pages you can quickly tap on a game, or you can quickly tap to resume a TV show you've been watching. And I actually really like how it looks, and I think for people who aren't perhaps so technical, they don't like going and sort of into app drawers and behind the scenes of tablets, the fact that it's all presented here so clearly and so visibly, and it's so easy to access this content, I think it's a really positive thing. On the other hand, the fact that it is Amazon Fire software means you don't get access to the full Google Play Store, so the library of apps you have access to is a lot more limited than a normal Android tablet, which is a shame, but you do get most of the core ones. You've got Facebook, IMDb, Google Maps, all the Amazon apps like Amazon Prime, shopping, music. So it's not got the full breadth of apps that you may be used to if you do have an iPad or an Android tablet, but at the same time it's got a lot of the core ones. It's got obviously all the Amazon ones if that's important to you, and but I do also, as I say, like how it is presented, and I think it's actually one of the most interesting UIs, your user interfaces, you can get on a tablet. And not only does it look nice, it also obviously makes it feel very fast. I was absolutely amazed how fast this feels to use. It feels like an absolute flagship in some regards, just to general navigating of the UI, scrolling through pages. I would say that the display isn't always the most responsive. Once or twice it's not recognized a finger press, I've had to do it twice or press a bit harder for some reason, but 98% of the time it's very, very reliable, very good, and very responsive. And just swiping through home screens and bringing up the notifications and looking at your previous apps is all very nippy and speedy, and actually very, very impressive given the pretty basic hardware inside. In fact, even playing games like Real Racing 3, which is pretty intensive, obviously doesn't look the best on here thanks to the as a result of the lower resolution screen, but that lower resolution means it doesn't have to work as hard, doesn't have to push as many pixels, which means you get a solid frame rate, and all these high-end games are pretty playable, which is really nice for such a low-end tablet. Now the Fire does have a couple of cameras. It has a 2 megapixel rear and a front VGA camera. I won't spend long talking about these because they're a bit rubbish. In fact, they're very rubbish. I'm not even sure why anyone would want to use a camera on a tablet, but if you are one of those people, this isn't really the one for you. The rear camera will produce photos and videos, but they're not going to look nice. They're quite noisy. Even in bright sunshine, the colors are washed out. It's a poor camera, but it is there. You know, if you're just someone who, you know, you're using this in your living room and your dog does something funny, you can take a quick picture of it. And perhaps if you're not interested in high megapixels and ultra high definition quality cameras, it doesn't really matter. And you know, so it's nice to have it. It's better than nothing. But I wouldn't rely on it as your primary camera, and I always recommend just getting your phone out. It's going to be a lot better than this. The battery is also pretty decent, surprisingly. I would watch a episode of something on Amazon Prime, which takes about an hour, and I would see the battery go down about 20%, so that means you could get about 5 hours of video. Amazon's claim you'll get about 7 hours from this, and I think that's about right, actually. I think if you're watching video constantly, getting 5 hours is pretty solid. So maybe 7, maybe 8 or 9 if you ration it a little bit. So it will last you, you know, assuming you're not using it all the time, a good few days between charges. So actually pretty capable, the battery life. I was quite impressed with that. Charging takes about 2.5 to 2 3/4 hours. There's no fast charging or anything here, which is a bit of a shame perhaps, but you can't really expect all these fancy features on such a budget tablet. One thing to note about the Fire is you can buy it in 2 different models. You get either one with adverts or one without. Adverts aren't that intrusive. Perhaps when you wake it up, you sort of do see an advert like this, and you have to sort of swipe away. It's a very minor annoyance, but I think if you're going to use it regularly, I would just opt to get the slightly more expensive one without adverts. You can upgrade any of the models to get rid of them. Even if you've already bought one, you can upgrade to remove them for about $10-15. But I would recommend getting the slightly higher one for about £60, $65 I think it is, without ads. They're not that invasive, intrusive, but it sort of takes away how personal the tablet is if you keep getting adverts popping up. Now, a quick word about storage. This does only have 8 gigabytes of internal storage, which is pretty rubbish, but the good news, it does support micro SD cards up to 128, so you don't have to worry about running out of room anytime soon. You can put all your movies, your pictures on the SD cards and then put it right in here, and you'll have more space than you possibly need. So don't worry about storage. Just get yourself a cheap 16 or 32 gigabyte card. Overall, to be completely honest, this is actually a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought, well, it's going to be fairly popular because it is so cheap. You know, these value tablets do sell well. In the UK, we have the Huddle and the Huddle 2 from Tesco. There was a various, obviously, other very low-end budget tablets. I also have the Nexus 7 2013, which you can buy for about 100 quid. But again, that's twice as much as this. And although that does have a nicer screen, it's a bit thinner, it's a bit nicer to use, the full Google Play library, it is twice the price. And is it twice as good? No, I don't think it is. So if you're looking for a really low-end tablet, I say low-end, it doesn't really do this service. If you're looking for a really cheap tablet, this is absolutely one to buy. Nothing comes close to offering the sort of performance. Usually when you're sort of sub $100 tablets, you really are compromising on speed. I used to have some old Arcos tablets which were just horrific to use in terms of just navigating, going side to side. It was just slow and unresponsive. But technology, software have got to a point where even for £50, $50, you get a pretty nice experience. It's not HD, it's not going to blow your socks off, but it's solid, and as Amazon call it, a most sensible tablet. And I think that's the best way of describing this. It's a sensible tablet for kids, for elderly people, just to have around, chuck it about, doesn't really matter. If you lose it, it's not the end of the world. It's pretty durable, pretty thick, pretty solid and rugged, so it's just one of those things you can put in your back pocket. I've tried, you actually can put this in your back pocket, and just, you know, pull it out, carry on reading a book, catch up on the latest Parks and Recreation on Amazon Prime. And about Amazon Prime, I would say that I would highly recommend having an Amazon Prime subscription if you're going to get the Fire tablet. It just makes everything a bit more accessible. It means you're not having to pay for episodes of things and books, all the books all the time. So if you do have an Amazon Prime account, this is a lot more sort of just nice to use. Things are a lot more accessible. So if you have Amazon Prime and you're looking for a great budget tablet, this is the one to buy. If you don't have Amazon Prime, it's still a solid choice. Maybe not the best because you do have to buy a lot more of the episodes of things and the movies and things. Generally though, this is in my opinion, the best budget tablet you can buy by quite some margin. Nothing comes close to the bang for buck you get with this, the sheer value for money. And it's pretty nice to hold in one hand. People can just pick it up, do some web browsing, watch some videos, anything you do on a tablet. And if you're someone who has perhaps one of the older Kindle e-readers, like a Paperwhite or something, this is a nice little step up. You still get a portable 7-inch screen for reading your Kindle books, but at the same time, flip it into landscape mode and you've got a media player, watch your movies, videos. So I'm actually genuinely very impressed with this, and if the question comes up, should you buy it? Yeah, even if it's like a bit of a throwaway, even if it's just like an extra Christmas present or an extra little birthday treat. So this has been my review of the new Amazon Fire tablet. Let me know what you think of it in the comments and whether you think you might buy one yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well to the Tech Chat, because there'll be more of the latest and greatest technology reviews coming on the channel very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and go buy one of these.